Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Jab, Cross, Hook.
Welcome back. It is time for another UFC card breakdown here with Jab, Cross, Hook. Carter Masterson joined alongside no one today. It's just me here from the Flint Hall Floor 3 Lounge. Dean Pomeroy couldn't make it with me, but I did update the records behind us. There was no episode posted for UFC 325, but the picks were made. We had some errors getting the video out. Couldn't get it out on time. I take full responsibility for that. We also had to cancel a week after that because me and Dean were too busy that week to get an episode out. But we are back this week with episode 7. Let's get right into this. It starts with Carly Judici versus Juliana Miller because there was no UFC last weekend. We are just going to skip the recap for the show that we missed. So let's get right into it. Carly Crispy Judici out of Lafayette, Louisiana comes into this one as a minus 400 heavy favorite. She enters this fight off of 2 wins via submission or via finish. She has made a hot start to her UFC career. On the other side, you have Juliana Miller, who is kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. Juliana Miller 2-2 in the UFC, 4-3 overall. That's a terrible record. She fought in the UFC at 500, 3-3, and they let her fight. I can't believe it. She beat Brogan Walker. She beat Ivana Petrovic. 2 fine wins. Lost to Veronica Hardy and Luana Santos. Really not great. Like, Luana Santos is a good loss. Veronica Hardy, not so much. She hasn't fought since May of last year, but all over social media she's been talking about how she's so frustrated to be such a big underdog, which I really don't get. But Carly Judici has gone out and just absolutely dominated in her first 2 performances. She beat Eunice Dubin with a first-round head kick knockout, and then she absolutely beat the brakes off Nicole Cagliari, outlanded her 109-32, gave up 1 takedown to Juliana Miller, who is going to look to take her to the ground and work some ground and pound. But Judici's too good. Even if it gets to the ground, I like Judici by some sort of submission. She can reverse a position. She's just more talented than Juliana Miller. So for that reason, I'm going to go Crispy Judici, Carly Crispy Judici. I don't think she gets the finish, though. I think Miller is game enough to have it go to decision, but don't be surprised if Judici goes out there and knocks her out. That could 1,000,000% still happen. Just because I'm picking decision doesn't mean I think Miller is definitely game here. I think she's an absolute can. Started the week at plus 300. Her odds down all the way to plus 600. That's terrible. That's awful. But we shall move on. That was it for Carly Crispy Judici. She will beat Juliana Miller. I can just about guarantee it. But of course, there is no guarantees in MMA, so I guess I can't. Moving on, Yadier Del Val, the Cuban problem versus Jordan the Monkey King Levitt. Jordan Levitt out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Yadier Del Val fights out of Houston, Texas, so kind of a hometown fight, but he is from Cuba. He trains out of Gracie Barra in Houston. He comes into this one with a spotless record, 10-0. But if the name sounds familiar for you, it's because he was involved in some pretty serious business last time out. Although he was not the one at fault, his opponent was caught maybe shaving or maybe throwing the fight. Isaac Dolgarian was immediately placed on FBI watch list, banned from the UFC, cut from the roster, waiting trial and all that stuff still, so we don't know for sure, but it was a first-round submission. And Yadier Del Val has done that in both of his first 2 fights, but it was versus Dolgarian and Conor Matthews. Really nothing impressive. He went to decision on the Dana White Contender Series, so it was a good performance that earned him the spot, but he left a little bit to be desired, and he kind of hasn't done that since. Like, the 2 first-round finishes, yeah, they're great, but he went to a war versus Antonio Montero. Montero didn't push him to the brink or anything, but had him on the ground, attempted a sub. Del Val was game, though, got back up, finished the fight, brought it back down a few times. Del Val is a guy who's going to like to take it to the ground, but he also has a very high output. But Jordan Levitt is a tough challenge for Del Val. I think his toughest challenge yet. He's lost to guys like Paddy Pimblett, Chase Hooper, And Claudio Puelles is not a great loss, but that one went to decision. And he's beaten all the other cans he's faced, other than Trey Ogden, that went to a split decision. He's beaten the rest of them by finish. Victor Martinez, Matt Sales, Kurt Hollabod, it's nothing really to look at too heavily, but he's a guy who's going to go out there and fight. He's a killer be killed guy. He's only gone to decision twice in his UFC career. I don't see this one going to a finish as well. But I'm going to go with Jordan Levitt here. I think Jordan Levitt is going to be able to get this fight to the ground. Yadier Delval doesn't have great takedown defense, and Levitt doesn't love to throw takedowns, but he's done it in a lot of the fights he's won. Delval has shown a lot of holes in his game, and with these 10-0 guys, 11-0 guys, 9-0 guys, the undefeated guys with not a lot of fights, sometimes they go out there and have a bad performance. And with the odds sitting at plus 300 on Jordan Levitt, I think it's worth a sprinkle. I don't think Delval is some legendary prospect that we're going to be talking about for a long time. I think he's kind of a middle-of-the-pack guy. I could be wrong. He's looked good in his last two fights, sure, but especially coming off what happened in his last fight, I just think eyes will be on him, and I think maybe he gets fraud checked. Of course, there's a long time for him to turn his career around. He's very young, and one loss doesn't define him, but that's sometimes what these guys need. Sometimes they need that loss, goes out there, motivates them to get better. Moving on to the next fight, we have the veteran Phil the Fresh Prince Rowe. He steps in to face off against Jean-Paul Lesbois Nayani. Pardon me for that absolute butchering. Jean-Paul Lesbois-Noyani. JPL is what we're going to call him. That's his nickname. JPL sits at 9-2 and 5'11", 170 pounds. Phil Rowe, 6'3", with an 8-inch reach advantage as well. So something to watch there for sure. But JPL, he's no scrub. Comes into this one 9-2, and like I just mentioned with the low fight numbers, undefeated records, I like when the fighter has a loss or two on their record. It means they fought through some adversity and they've gotten better. JPL is coming off of a Dana White Contender Series performance where he absolutely butchered Jack Congdon in the first round. A lot of his fights come by finish. He fought in LFA, had a great time over there. Actually, one of his two MMA losses didn't even come in LMA. He's headlined some cards over there. He's not afraid of the bright lights. I don't think he's a guy who's going to get flustered, and especially not by Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe is a guy who's just kind of past his prime at this point. Not that he really had a prime, but I mean, you look at this guy, 170 pounds with fighting in welterweight at 6'3" with 80 inches of reach. Like, there's potential there, and he is physically gifted, but he's not that good. He's not that good, and he doesn't get finished. But Neil Magny lost a split. Jake Matthews lost. Seokung Ko lost a unanimous decision, and he looked like he didn't even care, didn't even want to be there. I don't know how I can even think about taking him against JPL. He knocked out Angelusa in a fight he was probably losing, and that was his last win. I think JPL runs through him. We didn't see him throw any takedowns in his Dana White Contender Series fight, but he's a guy who's going to look to go to the ground. And I don't know if this fight finishes by KO or submission, but I think it finishes in the first round. If I had to take a guess, I'd say submission, but don't be surprised if he whips out some ground and pound. He landed 9.71 strikes per minute in his first fight. It was only a one-round fight, so that's why that number is so inflated. But I think he's going to go out there, pressure Rowe early, throw a takedown in, something that maybe he didn't work as heavily on in camp. And I think he's going to find the finish pretty early. I think Phil Rowe is ready to hit the glue factory. I don't think he's got anything left. So that is my pick. Jean-Paul Lesbois-Noyani. It's a tough one. So if he's really good, then I'm going to have to learn that name. We'll see how John Anik says it on Saturday night. Moving on, Puda Soriano versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Another interesting fight here. on the early prelims. Punahele Soriano fights out of Oahu, Hawaii. He's a teammate of Sean Strickland at Extreme Couture. He goes up against Ramiz Brahimaj, comes into this one 13-5, but they're both on a 3-fight win streak. For Puna, it is a unanimous decision versus Miguel Baeza, who sucks. He finished Uros Medic in the first round. Uros Medic, of course, is a killer-be-killed fighter. He's got a weak glass chin. He's going to go out there and knock you out or get knocked out. And then he beat Nikolai Veretennikov pretty convincingly, but by a unanimous decision. Moving on to Ramiz Brahimaj, he has really turned his career around. He is a much different fighter than he used to be. Trying to pull this up here on Tapology. It's loading. It's scrolling a little bit for me. He fights out of Dallas, Texas. Travis Lutter JCH. But Ramiz Brahimaj has finished his last 3 opponents. Mickey Gall, he finished him in round number 1. Billy Ray Goff, he did the same. And then he also beat Austin Vanderford in his last time out. So I'm not going to act like these are impressive wins. Like, he's beating up on absolute cans, but he's going out there and taking care of business. But here's why I like Punahele Soriano in this one. Punahele Soriano outlands Brahimaj at a 2 strikes per minute rate. They throw about the same amount of takedowns. They both have terrible takedown defense. I don't think they're skilled enough that if this goes to the ground, they're going to find a finish. And I don't think that Brahimaj is going to be able to pressure Soriano enough to where he's able to put him out. We've seen Puna have success with the takedowns, and I think he's going to do that again. I just don't think he's going to find the finish. I think Soriano by decision here is a really good bet. And I'm going to go with Punahele Soriano to win this one with his 4th straight. And although I still don't think he's very good, I don't think either of these guys are very good. You know, 4 wins in a row, that means something. And all of them have come since he moved down a weight class. So maybe there's something there, but maybe there's not. We will see later on. Moving on, we have Nora Cornol versus Jocelyn La Pantera Edwards. These two have fought before. This is their 2nd meeting ever. Nora Cornol out of Seine, France. Won the last time these two fighters fought. Since then is 2-2 in the UFC, both wins by finish. Here's the thing. She didn't win the last fight. Go back and look at the fight. She lost. Like, the judges said she won, sure, yeah. But she lost the fight. I don't care what anyone else says. She didn't win. Just straight up and simple. She controlled Cornol on the ground, was hunting for subs, was landing some shots too. Not very impactful shots, sure. And I could have seen it being a split even. Like, it wasn't that definitive, so I went too hard there. But they give it a unanimous decision for Cornol, who it didn't really do that much. The French crowd was booing her after the judges gave her the decision, just for some reference. Lost her next fight out, but since then, 3 wins by finish. I don't think she wins this one by finish. I think she wins this one by decision, but I definitely think she defends, or she gets her loss back against Nora Cornol. I think she wins by a dominant decision, 30-27, maybe even a 30-26. I think she goes out there and absolutely dogs walks Nora Cornol. But that's a quick breakdown right there. Let's get into the next fight. Next up, we have Luis Garul versus Alden Correa. Alden Correa in his 2nd ever fight in the UFC comes into this one 11-3. Luis Garul, short king, stands at 5'5". He's been around the block a little bit. He's got 2 fights in the UFC. Both happened last year. Lost to Ode Osborne and Jesus Aguilar. Not good losses. He won a split decision to get here. He's not a UFC caliber fighter. He can't take down to save his life, and he can't really defend a takedown either. Alden Correa has relentless pressure. He throws a lot of strikes, less than Garul, but he throws a lot of takedowns as well. And I think that's really where this fight is going to be won by Alden Correa. We look at the fight versus Aguilar. Aguilar took him down, controlled him for a little bit. The Osborne fight, he just got knocked out in the first round. But Nick Piccanini in their Dana White Contender Series fight landed 10 takedowns on Luis Carroll. 10 takedowns. That's insanity. Can't do that, and he's shooting a lot, so he defended some of them, but I think Corey is a lot better than Luis Carroll. He won his UFC debut, of course, versus Alessandro Costa. Came in as a late finish. Costa was game in that fight. He was hunting some subs early, almost got one locked in, but Corey fought out of it, and he won the fight by a third-round knockout. I think he's the better fighter. That's what this comes down to. I think that Correa is a better fighter. I think he's going to work the takedowns early and often, ground and pound. And I think this one's going to be complete domination, like complete domination. And I'm not sure to take KO or sub here, but I'm going to go with sub. I think Garul's been in trouble on the ground before. I think Correa's going to go in with the game plan. And I'm sure Garul's been working on it, but I think the size advantage, the reach advantage will work in favor of Correa, and I think he gets this one done. And I don't think that one sees the final bell. Next up, Ode Osborne is back after his fight at 135 with Steve Urseg. The Jamaican sensation has been really hit or miss in the UFC. He sits at 13-9. His UFC record, 5-7. Not good. Not good. He's lost 4 of his last 5 to Asu Amabayev, Rafael Filho, Ronaldo Rodriguez. He beat Luis Carroll, funny enough, and he lost to Steve Urseg, but he won that first round. But Urseg just came back and took care of business. That was an impressive performance from Steve Urseg. Alibi Idris out of Kazakhstan. He's not very good. He fought in the tough finale, and he lost. But he's here. He lost to Joseph Morales by a submission in the second round. Joseph Morales, of course, he won his next UFC fight, so he's pretty decent, but Idris looked terrible out there. Like, there's bad fight IQ, and it just wasn't good. Now, I want not to say that Ode Osborne has good fight IQ, but he's been here. He's fought these type of guys before, and that's really who he's beaten. Like, he's beaten lesser known guys, and he beats them by finish. He even has a win over Charles Johnson by split decision. I think Osborne, I'm taking him because the experience. They throw about the same amount of strikes. He throws a little more takedowns. Idris could win this one. We'll see if he's any good. We'll see how much work he's put in since last August, but I like Osborne. Both of these guys haven't fought in about 6 months, so return to the cage for both. We will see what happens. Moving on to our last prelim fight, Chidi Bang Bang Njokuani versus Carlos the Lion Leal. An interesting one here. Couple guys who I think are pretty terrible at fighting. To keep it straight up. I just don't think they're very good. Especially Chidi Njokuani. Like, he's decent, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say he's the worst guy I've ever seen or anything, but his wins come over Jared Gooden, Reese McKee, and Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. His last one by finish, but none of these guys have really done anything in the UFC. Look before that. Dusko Todorovic, Mario Souza. His best win is Marc-Andre Barrio 4 years ago. Anytime he's taken a real step up on competition, Matthews, lost. Oleksiejczuk, lost. G-Rod, lost. Now, here's the question. Is Carlos Leal a step up in competition? Is Carlos Leal better? I don't know. I thought so. I really did. And then he got put out in under a minute by Muslim Salikov in their last fight. Cost me a pretty penny. Carlos Leal is good. His striking is sharp. He's got a whole lot of power. He either is still juiced to the gills or was in his past life. He throws a lot of strikes, almost 10 landed per minute, and Chidi does as well. And here's what I think is going to happen. I think Leal's going to come in a little more patient, still push the pressure, but not get himself in trouble like he did for Salikov, although that's not the only time he's gotten himself in trouble, by the way. It's happened a couple times on the regional scene as well. He's just survived it, he survived it, like the fights kept going, maybe still didn't win, but it's happened before. I think he learns his lesson here. Ty Brazil, decent gym. He had an embarrassing performance last time, and he's going to be like really fired up and ready to go. However, what I think is going to work in his favor is that Chidi gasses. I think he's going to go out there, strike with Chidi, and if Chidi catches that chin, he could put him out because Leal has a pretty glass chin, and Chidi's got a reach advantage. You know what? I'm changing the pick. I think Leal pushes the pressure. And no. Screw it. I'm going to stick with it. I'm overcomplicating this too much. I think Leal is going to learn his lesson. I think Chidi's too old. I think that chin is going to get cracked. Maybe not in the first round, maybe in the second round, but he's going to start getting tired, and I think Leal's going to find that chin. Put him to sleep. All right. Next fight and the start of the main card. Zach Reese versus Michel Pereira. Zach, the Savage Reese versus Michel Demolador Pereira. Michel Pereira, everywhere you can find it, is listed at 32 years of age. He don't look 32. Most of the MMA community thinks that maybe he's not 32. Zach Reese has heavy hands. He knocked out Sean McVay in the second round. He didn't finish Dusko Todorovic, but he did put the work in on him. His loss comes to Bekaev, and his losses come to Brundage in his debut and Bekaev a couple fights later, but he's beaten guys like Marquez, Jose Medina, Todorovic, McVay. And I think he's starting to come into his own a little bit. And really, I'm going to pick him not because I think he's very good, but because I think Michel Pereira is washed. I think his best days are behind him. Michel Pereira has always kind of been that flashy guy, has some crazy moves, and versus a power threat, I just don't know how well that's going to work for him. I don't think it will work well. We'll see if I'm wrong there, and I definitely could be. But I think he's going to get his chin cracked. I think he's too old. I think he's lost 3 in a row, 2 by finish, the 1 not by finish to Avis, who we know what we got in Avis. He's just okay. But he's not that far removed from an 8-fight win streak where he looked really good. Fortunately, things have taken a turn for the worse in his career. He has had some trouble in his personal life, got caught with a mistress because he brought her to the fight. Really intelligent guy, clearly. And he's game here. Like, don't get me wrong, he's game. And this fight could go to decision, but I think Reese is just too young. I think he's going to put the pressure on him. I think he's going to put him to sleep. So that is the pick. Next up on the docket. Jacoby Smith versus Josiah Harrell. Jacoby Smith and Josiah Harrell come to this one 11-0 respectively. So this is an exciting one. Someone is going to lose their 0. And I don't think it'll be Jacoby Smith. A lot of people this week are doubting Jacoby Smith because, hey, Josiah Harrell's solid. Like, don't get me wrong. Josiah Harrell is a solid fighter. It's his UFC debut, and he is making this fight on a short notice. But from the little bit of tape I saw on him, he's good. But here's why I'm picking Jacoby Smith. I think Jacoby Smith is a welterweight Anthony Hernandez. Now, I don't think he's got the same mindset as Anthony Hernandez because Anthony Hernandez is an absolute savage. But I think he's got a similar style. He lands about 6 strikes per minute, shoots 7 takedown attempts on average. He's going to have relentless pressure in this one. He's going to be pushing Josiah Harrell in the first round. I think lights will be a little bit bright. I think he finishes Josiah Harrell in the first round, but even if he doesn't, I think he's going to show some levels here. And I know he was gassing out a little bit versus Nico Price, but I don't look too far into that. He was supposed to fight Seok Ko, and I really liked him in that one. Like, really, really liked him. But I also think Josiah Harrell's just a little unproven. Like, yeah, he won. He's 2-0 in the LFA, and he's 8-0 in Combat League, but not a lot of, like, there's no big names that he's fought. He was scheduled to fight Jack Della Maddalena in his UFC debut in 2023, but he didn't. But that shows you the kind of guy that I think he is. He's a good fighter, and I think he's game, but I think Jacoby Smith is that dude. Jacoby Smith is one of the guys I'm going to be tailing, just like I am Fluffy, all the way to the top. I think he is an absolute beast, and he's one of my favorite fighters to watch fight. Moving on. The next fight of the night, Ante Delija versus Sergey Spivak. A UFC veteran versus a UFC newcomer. Of course, the last time we saw Ante Delija, pretty crazy fight. Both of these guys' last fights, actually, is a loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta. Spivak had a decently close fight, took Waldo down a few times, but Waldo won that one 29-28, 30-27, maybe. You could even see that. And here's the thing that concerns me about Spivak. He's only 31, but he's 1-3 in his last 4 fights. And granted, he did beat Marcin Tybura, the easiest one out of the 3. Waldo looks pretty legit. Almeida, we know Almeida's solid, even though he's cut from the UFC now after 2 bad performances. Story for another day. That is insane. And his other loss is it's just real gone. Everyone else who's not, like, he even beat Derek Lewis, who couldn't wrestle. And Ante Delija is a decent wrestler. Like, in his past fights before the UFC, he used the wrestling a little bit. Since coming over, he's turned himself into more of a speed guy, more of a striker. But I think Spivak's going to be able to work some takedowns. And initially, I was thinking by sub, but I think he gets this one by some sort of KO. I think he'll tire Delija out. I think he'll control positions. Maybe it's ground and pound. Maybe it gets back up to the feet and he catches him. And Delia's more than game in this one, but we haven't seen his ground game tested in the UFC yet, and because of that, I'm going to take Sergey Spivak, and I think he's going to be able to find something there. We'll see if I'm wrong. I like Ante Delija. I kind of want to see him win, especially after his fight out last time, but Spivak is going to be the pick for now. 3 fights left. This one has fight of the night written all over it. All over it, in my opinion. That is Melquizael Costa, the Dalmatian, versus Dan 100K Ige now. Of course, the bonuses moved up from 50K to 100K. Dan Ige, also out of Hawaii, also a teammate of Sean Strickland out of Extreme Couture. Ige comes in this one 19-10. Coming off a loss to Patricio Pitbull by unanimous decision, where he kind of threw that one away. I thought he could have won it, and he just went out there, and it wasn't pretty. It really wasn't. Every time he's been really tested, he's lost recently. Lopez, I get that one was on extremely short notice, but still. He lost to Rowan Murphy dominantly. Patricio Pitbull, pretty dominantly. Mitchell, he got dominated. Here's the thing, though. He does not get finished. And Melquizael Costa, he's going to outland him. He's going to shoot more takedowns. In the first 2 rounds, he's going to be really game. I think holes are going to start to open up in the 3rd round for Danny Ige. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not taking him to win. I'm taking Melquizael Costa. He's on this 5-fight win streak. Had that thriller finish versus Morgan Charriere. But Costa doesn't need the finish. Like, I think he's going to go out there and he's going to put the absolute work on Dan Ige for the first couple rounds, and I think Ige's going to tire because he's going to be getting beat up, and I think he'll have some life late in the fight. Maybe he rocks Costa, but Costa's too smart. Fights out of shoot box. I don't think he has his ranking yet, but this fight will be for his ranking. In the jab cross hook rankings, he is currently sitting at number 14. And Ige at 15, but not the same in UFC rankings. So my pick's going to be Costa. I'm leaning towards a decision right now. Don't be surprised if he goes out there and finishes him. But I think he's going to get inside on Ige and make him hurt. The one thing I worry about is Ige's height advantage. That could that could play in his favor. But we shall see. Next fight, the co-main event. Jeff Neal, Houston born and raised, the hands of steel Neal, Dallas, Texas native. Sorry, not Houston born and raised, Dallas guy. He was supposed to fight Kevin Holland rumoredly, but he turned that fight down. Holland really wanted to fight on this card, but he couldn't do it. These are kill or be killed fighters. Jeff Neal in his last time out got brutally knocked out by Carlos Praches. In his last 3 losses are to Carlos Praches, Ian Machado Gary, and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, did Jeff Neal get brutally knocked out? Yes. It was a spinning elbow, though. It wasn't like he got his chin absolutely demolished. Does it help? No. Definitely not. But this is an absolute warrior. He fought through drug addiction and COVID, came back, he's beaten drug addiction, and continued his UFC career before COVID and his addiction. He was really a promising prospect with wins over Mike Perry, Bilal Muhammad, Nico Price. Not that Nico Price has anything left, but since then he's only gotten wins over not very good guys. Vicente Luque, who's washed, Rafael dos Anjos, who's washed, and for Medic, he's a kill or be killed fighter. The Doctor, sick nickname. Fights out of Anchorage, Alaska via Serbia. So that's how you know this guy is an absolute dog. He leaves openings on the feet. Oh boy, does he leave openings on the feet. He allows himself to get hit at a 56% rate. And I think Neal is going to find that. For a guy that is as chinny as he is, he got knocked out by Puna. He got dominated by Miktik Bekorobai. And Jalen Turner also dominated him in the first round. However, he doesn't have to worry about the ground game here with Jeff Neal, so I do think that plays to his favor. Don't be surprised if Medic catches the chin of Neal and puts him to sleep, but I think Jeff Neal in front of his home crowd goes out there and knocks him out. I think he's going to put the volume on early, and he's going to stay out of harm's way, and I think later into the fight he finds that finish. Moving on to the main event of the evening, and why the episode is titled Hate Watch. Sean Tarzan Strickland versus Las Vegas, or Sean Tarzan Strickland, Las Vegas, Nevada native, extreme couture fighter. He stands 6'1", 185 pounds, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Like I mentioned, 29-7. Former champion Sean Strickland. He is here to main event UFC Houston. The Texas crowd is probably going to be pretty split here between him and Fluffy, because Fluffy's so close to Mexico, and I'm sure there'll be great representation there. Strickland on the back half of his career here, definitely on the back nine for sure. He was once a champion, like we mentioned, got a short notice title shot versus Israel Adesanya, and he made do with it. Like he did what he needed to do with that opportunity. And he went out there and he became champion. He put on an amazing performance. Since then, he lost the strap to DDP, had a split decision versus Costa, which, to be fair, should not have been a split decision at all. The scorecards were 50-45, 49-46, and then 49-46 Costa, something you never see. Sean Strickland, 34 years of age, 16-7 in the UFC. He's been around for a long time. Former welterweight, fought at middleweight for quite some time now. But he's an absolute scumbag. I hate Sean Strickland. He's a terrible person. It's really like I would never pick him. I will never pick him. He goes against everything I believe in outside of the UFC. Now, I'll drop that and I'll give you the real breakdown. Strickland is a very solid defensive fighter. He likes to use his jab, his teep. Of course, that's talked about all over social media. It's a meme at this point. And I think that could be effective. But let's look at Fluffy Hernandez. 15-2 record, 6 feet, 186 pounds, fighting out of Dunnigan, California via Mexico, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. He comes into this one on an 8-fight win streak in the UFC, was calling for a title shot after his vicious submission win over Roman Dolidze. Was supposed to fight Reinier de Ritter last fall, had a rib injury, had to pull out. Both of these guys have had injuries in their last fights. For Strickland, he fought about a year ago, and it was a shoulder injury. Fluffy, of course, that sounded like a rib problem when he was talking to the media, but it was never confirmed. Fluffy goes out there and dominates people, man. Dominated Kopylov, dominated Pereira, broke Dolidze's soul, and it's his relentless pressure style. He's going to shoot a lot of takedowns and lock you up against the fence in a lot of different ways, and he's going to let you get up, and he's going to beat the crap out of you as you're trying. For Strickland, if he wants to win this fight, he's going to have to keep it on the feet. Fluffy does not like when people work to the body. He's been hurt to the body a few times in his career. However, I think that's probably something he worked on. And really what it comes down to is I think Fluffy is one of the most talented fighters in the UFC, straight up. He's an awesome personality. I think the UFC really wants to push him. They don't mind throwing Strickland in here because he sells, so even if he does win, it's a win-win for them. But I think this fight was made for Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to get his title shot, because I don't think they want Nasruddin Imavov fighting for the title. But you do have to worry about Fluffy pulling out if he is to get a title shot. He's had a history of that. He's had 3 pullouts over the past 3 years. And some of these fights would have been really exciting. Like, he had a fight scheduled versus DDP. He was supposed to fight Roman Dolidze 2 years before he did. And of course, I was really excited for that Reinier Ritter fight. So I worry about his injuries going forward. But I think he's coming to this one 100%. I think he's going to go out there and absolutely butcher Sean Strickland. And I'm going to enjoy every second of it. I haven't gotten a main event right this year. So it's bound to change. It's bound to change. 0-2 on my first 2 predicted. We'll see if I slip to 0-3. But that would suck. I don't want to be 0-3. All right. Last segment. You know what it is. It's our best bet segment. I'll start off with feeling frisky. I've got JPL via round 1 KO. And that's what I'm going to go with. It's at plus 600. Of course, feeling frisky, fighter and a fighter by method of victory. I think Phil Rowe is washed. I think JPL is really good. I think he's going to go out there and absolutely dog walk him. Get rich quick scheme of the week. This one's only sitting at plus 300, but I've got Fluffy Hernandez, Jacoby Smith, Jocelyn Edwards, JPL, and Carly Judices. I'm kind of riding all in on JPL there. He could really screw up the plays this weekend, but we will see. I really don't think Phil Rowe's got anything for him. I can't believe the number's as low as it is, honestly. Top dog, I'm going Zach Reese at plus 120. Pereira's game, I talked about it, yeah, but I think he's going to find the chin. Pereira is washed. And last pick, it shouldn't come as a surprise, my bankroll builder. Lay the wood on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. He's going to go out there and absolutely dominate him. A couple fights I'd stay away from in this one. I really think you should not play Ode Osborne's fight or Carlos Leal's fight. I think they're both too 50-50, and there's too much good angles on this card. I also would stay away from the Spivak fight and the Jeff Neal fight. Like that Hernandez fight, the Costa fight, the Lesbianiani fight, the Judici fight. Like there's fights here that there's angles. And I really think these 50-50 ones, especially on a card like this, I recommend steering clear. But that will do it for this episode of Jab Cross Hook Solo. We'll be back with a full production next week. For Carter Masterson, the Pomeroy, who's not here, signing off from the Flint Hall Floor 3 Lounge and episode 7 of Jab Cross Hook. Have a good weekend. Enjoy